Greetings and welcome to my next project. Like everyone who collects retro hardware equipment, the one thing I wanted to find is an original IBM, and here it is. In fact, two of them. I got this one originally, as this is a repair job, and there's a full restoration to do about this. This one was a second part to a haul I got last year, and the guy contacted me again and said, I found the other computer and it works. Here it is. Would you like it? So of course I rushed off to go and get it. So I'm promised that this one works. This one has the full height floppy drive, hard drive. This is the XT model. This one has a half height floppy and a half height hard drive down here, a couple of blanking plates, which is an indication of the fact that this looks like a later machine, this looks like an earlier machine. They're both XTs, but I think the motherboard on this will take 256 kilobytes. This might take the full 640. So this would be worth repairing and getting working. But until then, this is what I've got. And before I switch it on, I feel there is an essential thing I need to do. And that is that, although I'm promised it works, every advice I've seen on YouTube and other places suggests just checking things through, making sure nothing's shorted, no tantalums are on the cusp of just blowing up, as they will cause a short, and just making sure it's safe to switch on. And also see what's inside it, which would be quite exciting. So that's the job I've got to do this morning. Let's have a look. Well, before I go any further, I thought with my phone on a stick, I'll give you a little tour of all the bits and pieces I've found to make this project work, as there's a number of things that don't quite fit in the frame of the camera. Let me show you around. So this is the principal machine. This, as we can see down here, full height floppy drive, full height hard drive. It is, if that will show, the IBM XT. To go with it, I have the CGA monitor, color graphics array. I have managed to find the, what is that, Guide to Operations, the book. There are a few other books. Next to it is the machine I bought first, which, as you may see from examples of rust, there's more of that at the back. This is much more of a project. If we look, you may be able to make it out. Half height drives in this one, even though it is an XT, just the same. The monitor with a badge that's not quite in such a nice condition. The case is a little bit damaged and cracked. Altogether, the monitor and the computer in the second one, which I actually bought first, are in much poorer condition. And I noticed there are some differences other than the drives. If you look at the screen, there's a bit of a sheen. You can see my lamp in the background producing a bit of a sheen. On this one, much more glossy. You can see my bookshelf and the lamp behind me. So there are all sorts of differences, and I think it'd be quite interesting to see what differences there are. If we swing around to this side, I've got a few more bits and pieces. This, a spare PC speaker. I don't know if one is missing, why that's free. Next to that, I'm so happy to find one of these, the Model F keyboard, with the square badge to match the computer. And it has the correct 5-pin DIN, which I believe is an XT connection rather than AT. Back over here, so bought separately from the machines, but IBM Basic, of course that's an essential book to have. I bought this for the PS2, but it actually is relevant to this as well. It is a, let's have that the right way up, Personal System 2 and Personal Computer BIOS Interface Technical Reference. Don't know what that means. In anticipation of wanting to experience, here are some user guides for the operating system, a little mouse scanner thing that should work on these original computers. That's going to be fun. in anticipation of wanting a full height hard drive, I bought this. Now this is brand new, still in its box, extra hard drive, floppy drive. So should the hard drive not work, I will be able to install this instead and have a 2 floppy drive system. So that could be an interesting option. Then I have a number of ISA cards. We'll go through those in a moment. Here I bought, let's come over here with this. Doing this one-handed because I've got the phone in my other hand. Not expecting to find an IBM keyboard. I had bought this from America, which was surprisingly cheap, given postage from America is usually very expensive. So I think it might have cost me about £30 in the end. That is a adapter plug to plug a PS2 keyboard into the IBM XT socket. And with that in mind, I had, go back over here very quickly, I'd bought a PS2 keyboard, and of course wanting the clicky experience, I found one called Platinum Sound, and this is a clicky keyboard, but only a cheap one. And that, combined with that, was going to give me the experience, but I've got one of those instead now. In here, it's going to be even harder to get out of the bag, isn't it? Pile of chips. There is a PCB in this paper envelope. Another little, oh, here we are, off camera, look. That is a little project to install these other bits, a compact flash hard drive solution with these ICs and sockets here. And quite interested to watch Arctic Retro, Tommy up in Norway, building one of these. I think he's built 2 of them, and doing something I'm expecting to do, which is to struggle with surface mount soldering. So that is going to be interesting. So before we go back up, swinging down here, one other thing I've got is that. That is the EGA monitor. Sadly, this is in quite poor condition, the same as my second PC XT and CGA monitor. This is going to be well worth restoring. You see it's missing both caps and screws, but in general the case of this one is not too bad. Inside it is a little rusty. There's 2 PCBs, one on this side, one on this side, and there should be a plate across the top. The plate inside is missing, so someone's been into that machine already. Also, I managed to find the original Epson inkjet printer. Now that's something I want to match up with the system. So coming back here, one of the computers came with this, so I got very, very excited. Sadly, that isn't a Hercules card. It's someone's upgrade where they've put their old card in here. You know how that works. You buy a box that promises to have the latest all singing, all dancing processor, and of course what you've got is somebody's old hand-me-down processor, and they kept the other bit in their machine. But it does have floppy disks to go with it, so I assume those are drivers. What I've got in here I think is a more standard, that may or may not be an IBM, a more standard black and white card. 8-bit ISA slot, or PC bus slot. So it'll be interesting to have a look at that. Yes, there's some name. This is Everex. Not a company I'd heard of before, but that's what it is. Thinking of networking, because it would just be fun to try. This is also another large ISA card, complete with discs and, saw it very briefly early on, a book. That is going to be quite interesting. A terminal emulator. Don't know how that works, but I'd like to find out. So there we are. quite an array of bits and pieces to make a project. Now you may be able to see I'm just experimenting with the overhead shot. That's me in the corner. Hello. I feel very fortunate. I've picked up these two machines in a couple of halls of people clearing out their garage, their shed, their workshop. Often when they're moving house, or perhaps they got a little bit older and they're downsizing. And so in the last 2 years I've picked up 4, maybe 5 hauls of old computer bits, and where I've been so fortunate is that the bits and pieces that have come from one haul and one from another haul have kind of matched together to build a system. And another one of these systems I've got to build is a compact 286, where the monitor came from one source, a keyboard came from another, the bass unit came from another, and then when I go and pick up these, the guy that originally sold me the bass unit had in a bag of bits and pieces, a little bit like this, the cable I needed for the keyboard, which is completely unique to that system. It's an SDL cable, keyboard cable, the same as these are, but with a slightly different shape to plug in at the front rather than around the back. So it's always worth collecting up the bits and pieces that come. And with that I've got a number of ISA cards. I've sorted through already to have a look at what there is. And I've set up the overhead camera once again to try and have a look through and see what we've got. This one, very, very useful. Now, should it be the case that these monitors don't work, which at this stage is quite likely, although I'm promised that this one does, I have a VGA card. Now, can we see that on the overhead? That is a Paradise PVGAIA with a typical VGA port at the end, and on this card I had resoldered the RAM. I put them all into sockets. The reason I did that is because this card wasn't actually working when I first picked it up, and I was going to swap out the RAM chips from something from somewhere else, and so socketing them was the best way of quickly swapping them in and out. But having soldered sockets onto there and clicking the chips back in, it worked. So there was actually nothing wrong with it. It just had a bad solder joint or a cracked solder joint. So my soldering is not the best, but it's proved sufficient to get that working. That is very useful. In this box I've collected various other bits which may or may not come from later machines. Yep, these are VGA cards. I've got the wrong box. Hold on a second. Okay, now with the correct box I have some ISA cards. Some of these are for the 486. Some will suit this. Many, like this, are going to be 16-bit and ready for the compact. Now here we go. Another video card. This one is, so that is an EGA card with dip switches to set, a couple of RCA ports, which I think are composite video output, I'm not sure. So that will certainly be useful. This one is another video EGA and CGA, once again with dip switches. This one I've cleaned up. I've painted the end plate because it was very rusty, but the card itself may work. Again, a Paradise PEG A1A, slightly different to the other one. Now these, I have 3 of these. These, all of them, largely similar. Balance them on there, get them into shot, are all token ring adapters. This is the precursor to Ethernet. You can see this one's rusty, that one not so, with just a serial port on the end, and these should help create a network of these computers. So I may be able to network these 2 machines together, which would be really quite interesting. And to that end I've got some software to show you in a little bit. So that is a potentially exciting prospect. Find something to sit that on. The next thing I've got is various bits of software. Now some of these I've taken out and put into Scrabble. I have to have Scrabble. I've put into a box, but I have the manuals and other things for some of these elsewhere. I have IBM Storyboard. I think that's going to be quite interesting. That is a business presentation package, I think. A little bit like PowerPoint, but early. This looks curious. I'm not sure the discs are going to work, but this is Smartware, the Smart Communications and Time Manager. Now, I'm quite interested in the early business software. I'm interested to know, was it any good? Did it work? Was it useful? There's a good number of those. However, looking at the labels, the glue has given up, which is an indication that possibly the discs, although they look clean, may or may not work. The rest of what's in here is a number of different versions of the DOS operating system. So we've got 3.0, 3.21, 3.2, 3.3. Here's an earlier one, 2.10. So lots and lots of those, that's going to be good. At least one of those has got to be able to boot the computer, should it be that the rest of them fail. I don't think that'll be the case. I think that'll be quite good. There is one thing, carrying on with the ISA cards, I do have this, which is, you can see from above, the Hercules graphics card, and I got very excited about this, except of course it's not. What's happened here is someone has upgraded their computer and put the old monochrome graphics card back into the box. What a shame. However, I do have the floppy disks. You can see that there. Let's open this up on camera, if I can. Well, I'll open anyway. Come on, out you come. The bag is a little bit split and not opening in the correct way. So if I can get hold of one of these, I have the original owner's manual. All I need to do is replace the card that was inside the box. There seems to be various copies of this software from 1983 for use with Hercules graphics card. Whether these are the same or there's two parts or one as a replacement, I don't know, so I will have to try and back those up with a grease weasel or something similar. And then guide to the software for Hercules compatible. So we can get the sheen off that. Yeah, it's showing on the camera there. Oh look, information about AutoCAD. Now that is something I want to try. So perhaps it may be worth trying to get hold of one of these graphic cards. There's also information inside about their colour graphics card. Is it colour graphics? CGA. Which I believe that's what that is. There's a little illustration of it. So it's a small machine, a little bit like my Paradise card. Various specifications. I don't know if that shows on camera above. So that may be worth looking into. Can I replace the contents of this box? But to show you what was in the box, or what's in the box now, as it was in the machine, it's actually, point that up at the camera above, it's just an ordinary black and white card. Whether it does Hercules graphics or not, I don't know. It's not an IBM. This says here, Everex Systems Inc. 1986. And I think I actually pulled this out of the Compaq because I found a Compaq. This is the amazing thing about these various hauls of computers I picked up. I found one of these labelled Compaq and suitable for the monitor I also picked up from another haul to go with the computer I found. The keyboard I bought online for just £10 because it was missing its cable, and then the cable turned up in the haul for these computers. It's quite amazing how that works. So I'm thrilled to bits this year. This looks interesting. I believe somewhere I've got the software for this as well, so that lives inside the Hercules box for now. Continuing with IsaCard's inner box, I have this, the 3278/79 terminal emulation for the PC XT and AT. This I think is rather interesting. And I think there are various versions of this. I've seen versions with more disks or software seemingly available for it. So whether it comes in different components, I don't know. There's a book which doesn't quite fit in the box to explain all about it. Various books in the top. Link, the FT/TSO. So this is all about networking computers and forming your computer as a terminal emulator, which I think would be really interesting, something I'd like to do. How you do that, how it works, I really have no idea. If anyone can tell me, please do. It does have the software. So again, let's hope these discs will read correctly and I can back them up. We've even got stickers for the keys. So the whole package is here. Underneath is the adapter card. This is obviously an original. It looks like it's never been used. There's a little faint mark on there. It may have been inserted just to see. So it seems to have a unique ROM. That does look like it's a programmable chip, so perhaps that needs backed up. The main Intel IC there. A connection on the end. I'm not quite in shot for the camera above. But that should help create a terminal emulator. Which one of these machines I think would be a very, very interesting thing to do. And the kind of thing I want to do. Let's say I don't quite have the nostalgia for games, but for the business software, I am just fascinated with that question of, was it any good? Was it all it was cracked up to be? Did it work? So I'll put that back in the box. The first native mode coaxial link between your IBM Personal Computer or compatible and your IBM 3270 controller. Ah, I may need other parts. We will see what happens. If I do, I can always sell it on, move it on to someone who has these things. But I am very interested to try these things. The other thing is, I'm sure it's possible to replicate these things simply using a Raspberry Pi. There are other options. It may be that the IBM PC 3270 emulation program, still wrapped up in its cellophane, gets me over that problem. Perhaps the card can go in one machine, this software into another. Who knows? Requires DOS 2.1 or 3.1 or higher, so not very demanding by today's standards. If those discs I showed you don't work, I do have a sealed DOS 3.2. That's nice. This is the package the storyboard floppy disks came in. You can see I've taken them out of their plastic envelope. I don't have the 3.5 inch versions, but they're available. Lots of information about that. The keyboard shortcuts and the program. So it's a productivity family, it says. So I think it's for presentations. So just lastly, before we conclude this little section, I've also picked up, to go with a reference manual, what is it? Operations Guide and BBC Basic. these two books here, there is one more. Let's take that out of the way. Personal System 2, which is what I bought it for. It also covers the Personal Computer BIOS Interface Technical Reference. Now, I don't know exactly what that means, but there's lots of information about the BIOS, which might help with setting jumpers or switches or something. Also got supplements. Now, what's in the supplements, I wonder? Oh! It seems, you see that on the camera above? Supplements is rather blank, so you can add your own supplements to these reference guides and list them, create your own contents. That's the end of that. In the back here is that information about the Everex monochrome adapter that's sitting in my Hercules box. So it seems I don't have the software, but I do have the book to go with it. So if there is a driver or something I need, perhaps this will tell me and perhaps I can look it up. Hopefully somebody out there has it and we can get that working. There we go, it's on the overhead camera. Perhaps bring it forward so you can see it. There we go, Everex. And given I have one sealed up copy of IBM DOS, I do also have an unsealed copy of not quite the same thing. If we look here, it seems these slip cases are not all designed the same, and they don't all fit the same size binder that sits inside. So rather than being the same 3.2, there's actually 3.1. It's close enough. This will give me all the information I need to get up and running once I get these machines working. So that's the next job. Wish me luck. I think the job will be take them all apart, check the components are working one at a time, make sure each component is not shorted before I plug them all together. Though I'm promised that this machine here works, I would like to check it out first. And if it does work, I may be able to swap out components from this machine and find out here what is working and what's not working, so I can then get on with a repair and a restoration of this machine too. That will be in the next video. So thank you very much for watching. Wish me luck. Any advice, any guidance you can offer, please put them in the comments below. I could do with all the help that there is. As I say, I was a Macintosh user for 20 years. I'm fascinated by these machines now. But I'm not an expert, and I'm not giving any guidance, tutorials or anything else. This is simply a vlog of my learning about vintage PCs. Thank you very much. Bye for now.